I think it would be quite good for me to introduce myself. My Dharma name is Choga, and I spent the last 8 years in a monastery in Nepal. Recently I had to travel back to my home country because my parents fell ill. And as we know what it's like in the West, generally what happens is parents go into assisted care or into a home. But considering my mother's condition, I think probably if she were to go into assisted care into a home, she would very quickly deteriorate and probably die. And anyway, perhaps I've been influenced by this Eastern way of thinking, having lived there in Nepal for many years. Because the idea of kind of getting rid of your parents, that might sound not very good. I'm not trying to criticize others. I mean, there comes a time when there's not a lot you can do. So anyway, I just felt like I couldn't do that. And so I came back to Canada, and then it's apparent to me that there's not really any opportunity to return to my Buddhist studies. And so I was thinking, what could I do that would be of use? I mean, I've spent the last 12 years of my life doing a study of Buddhism, meditation in the mind. And so if I'm going to be of some help or use to my own people, because I am a Westerner, then it should really be through the Dharma. And I think I've been fortunate. I mean, we don't really call it luck, we call it karma. But somehow, then I got fortunate, because I was able to do what most Westerners don't have the opportunity to do in terms of studying the Dharma. Of course, for many then, they probably think studying the Dharma is a little bit meaningless these days. You'd be better off going to university, studying physics or something. I like these subjects. I really enjoy physics and sciences. But ultimately, for me, then it's very limited to what can be achieved purely through studying outer objects. The world's in a really bad state. And as far as I can see, especially Westerners are particularly messed up. There's something seriously wrong. And a lot of it has to do with this kind of rampant materialism that we're subjected to. And, deep down we all have the same feeling. We have this kind of feeling that there's something beautiful and wonderful about nature. We associate that with peace and tranquility. And those are the aspects that we kind of identify with meditation. I mean, I really kind of missed this because I was in retreat when the COVID thing happened. What I heard is that many, many people have turned away from city life and gone to find places to live in the country. That somehow this recognition of mortality has given people insight into some of the fundamental mistakes we're making in our modern societies. But certainly a great deal of that has got to do with this, as I said, this rampant materialism. So anyway, having come back, then I've been trying to catch up on what's going on in the world. I mean, we missed all kinds of things. We missed ISIS, the Fukushima earthquake and nuclear disaster, missed Trump. Some people say that's a good thing. And so I'm kind of a beginner. I'm having to learn the language again. There's all kinds of terms. And also there's a lot of things happening on the internet, which I was quite surprised about. I mean, in terms of meditation, etc. It seems that everybody and their dog is claiming to be enlightened or awakened. You have to realize non-duality. And really, to somebody who has experience in meditation and in the Dharma, then it's quite farcical. It's quite laughable. And I don't mean that to be kind of denigrating. And really, ultimately, it doesn't matter. If you only have worldly aims, for example, you just want to find some kind of temporary happiness, you want to sort of make your life a little bit better, insulate yourself from suffering, maybe shed a bit of addiction or trauma from your life, then, you can use any language you like. You can say, I don't exist, the world doesn't exist, thoughts don't exist, everything is non-dual. But if you think you really understand non-duality, then quite frankly, you're kidding yourself on. I mean, there's some very simple things you can do to see whether you've realized emptiness or non-duality. People have realized emptiness, for example. Now, they could take like a long, sharp needle and insert it through their arm, and they would feel only bliss. Okay, so it's very clear that's not us. And we don't need to talk about things that maybe people would consider to be kind of fairy tales. Okay, let's forget about that. You know, the yogis of the past did this and that. We don't believe that. So let's take, for example, some of these modern Hindu meditators. Now, based on their meditation, they can walk across burning hot coals. Not just slightly hot. These coals are roasting hot and fanned and flamed to the point where normally they would burn your entire skin off your body. Yet they can walk quite happily across this. Or, for example, have your appendix taken out without needing anesthetic. So if you feel you've realized emptiness or non-duality or non-separation, then there should be some miraculous powers that come along with that. Or let's say just worldly miraculous powers, like clairvoyance. Or the ability to walk on hot coals. Can you do that? Can you go to the dentist and have root canal done without anesthetic? Well, if you can't, and you think you're awakened, then it's quite possible that you're kidding yourself on. And again, as I said before, it doesn't matter if your definition of awakening is just to mean that you've kind of healed psychologically, or you've come to a new point in your life where you're more okay with your environment, your world. That's great. I think that's wonderful. And if you want to label that non-duality, that's fine. Some people do yoga. Some people take up watercoloring or rock climbing to find temporary happiness. But if you are somebody who's interested in finding ultimate happiness, which depends upon recognition of the true nature of reality, and it's this thing we call recognizing or realizing emptiness, non-duality, whatever you want to call it, then there's nothing more harmful to you than to think that you're already there. And I don't mean that to insult you. My sincere wish is that I could, maybe if I could just convince one of these people who think they're already awakened that they're mistaken, and they proceed on the path and investigate further, then that would be an accomplishment for this lifetime. I'd be satisfied with that. Because it's taught for somebody on the spiritual seeking path who's looking for liberation, then there is nothing more harmful to them than thinking they've already become awakened or enlightened. But you have to look at your motivations. If you're just trying to insulate yourself from worldly suffering, make yourself a little bit more capable of dealing with the day-to-day ups and downs of life, then sure, you can tell yourself you're awakened. You can say everything is non-dual. And I don't want to turn over your boat. But the understanding of non-duality is not simple. For example, many people say, there's no thought, there's no thought. Do you honestly believe you have no thought? Can you say that? That you never think, I'm hungry or I need to go to bed? If you've realized non-duality or emptiness, then you don't need to sleep and you don't need to eat. So why do? And for example, why would you look both ways crossing the street if you've realized no self? I mean, these things are quite obvious. However, I suspect many of the people online are really just trying to develop followers or get likes on YouTube. And after all, if you have enough followers, as I understand, then you get monetized. And so it's like it's an alternative career. It's kind of an easy way of making money, and there's lots of things you can talk about. You can talk about the war in Ukraine, or geopolitics. You can talk about sort of vegan food, meditation. There are many things. That's a way of making a living, right? This making a living is a worldly activity. When it comes to liberation, there's nothing worldly about that. Liberation is about being emancipated from the mundane existence and finding ultimate and final happiness, free of all suffering. And if you're a Mahayanist on top of that, somebody who follows the Mahayana Dharma, then it's becoming enlightened for the sake of all sentient beings. So, anyway, I'd like you to think about that. And you can reject what I've said. And I'm sorry if I've hurt anybody's feelings. But, if like me, you've given rise to doubts about these things, and you're not satisfied easily with other people's explanations. I mean, there are many, many trite explanations. Sort of, well, I am is the nature of reality. If you would analyze any of these things, then you can find within them conceptual fallacies. As long as there's conceptual fallacies, then you will never gain stable meditation. So, anyway, leave a comment below, good or bad. Sorry if I've hurt anybody's feelings. And likewise, if maybe I've inspired somebody to further thought, then that really, I will rejoice in that. That will make me very happy. Okay, see you next time.